So here's something wild that just happened. For years, the XRP community has been talking about one big question. Could Ripple actually replace SWIFT and become the backbone of our digital financial system? Well, on the 29th, SWIFT dropped an absolute bombshell of an announcement. But here's the thing. It wasn't just that they're launching a blockchain ledger. The real shock? They're doing it with consensus. Let me show you the announcement. SWIFT is building a blockchain ledger with 30-plus banks using consensus. I also wanted to take some time to dig deep and really put all the pieces together for you, because what I want to do in this video is show you everything we need to know to understand whether this is actually a threat or not. So let's get right into it. The first thing that jumped out at me, and honestly it's pretty suspicious, is that yes, SWIFT has always been seen as Ripple's main competitor. But here's the reality. SWIFT and Ripple are actually two completely different companies, doing completely different things. SWIFT's main game? Messaging. That's their focus. Ripple, on the other hand, handles messaging too, but their real focus has always been clearing and settlement, especially when it comes to cross-border payments. In fact, even Ripple's CTO, David Schwartz, who did recently step down, has said that if SWIFT can fix the messaging layer, they can actually work together. Ripple would handle the settlement and clearing side. Now here's where things get interesting. Consensus is the main player SWIFT is working with here. And if you don't know, Consensus is basically the powerhouse behind Ethereum. Let me take you back to 2020 for a second. When the SEC lawsuit against Ripple and XRP was officially announced, guess who was celebrating? That's right, Vitalik Buterin and major Ethereum founders, including people from Consensus.
So now things are starting to look really suspicious to the XRP community. We're all looking at this thinking, wait a minute, was Eachgate actually real this whole time? Because a lot of people dismissed Eachgate as fake, made up, just the XRP community coping with the lawsuit. And that's exactly what Crypto Insight UK pointed out. He said, if we in the XRP community are right, that Ethereum, Consensus, and even Gensler had something to do with the SEC lawsuit against Ripple, and now we're seeing Consensus potentially building with SWIFT, doesn't it make sense to consider two possibilities? First possibility, maybe SWIFT realized they really need a blockchain or DLT solution for their payment system. During Ripple's battle with the SEC, or maybe even before the lawsuit, it's possible that Ripple and SWIFT had discussions. Maybe SWIFT even made Ripple an offer, and Ripple turned it down. And then recently, and this is the first time I've ever heard him say this so directly, Brad Garlinghouse openly said that Ripple is aiming to take 14% of SWIFT's volume. Almost immediately after that, SWIFT started talking about needing blockchain-based settlement. That timing? It doesn't feel like a coincidence at all. Second possibility. What if Ripple's rejection of SWIFT, if that actually happened, was a strategic move? After the SEC lawsuit, maybe Ripple positioned itself to compete directly, rather than getting absorbed by SWIFT. Now, when we look at trust in SWIFT, it seems to be slowly eroding. And we've been talking about this for a while now. Take Russia, for example. Russia will likely never use SWIFT again. Even if relations with the US improve in the future, would Russia really route transactions through a system that completely cut them off? Probably not. And other countries are watching this very closely. Systems like China's CIPS exist. But here's the problem. They lack global liquidity. And this is exactly where Ripple could step in.
Think about it. Ripple could serve as a neutral settlement layer between the US and other countries, building that global liquidity over time and rivaling SWIFT in the exact corridors where trust is breaking down. Now look, these are just my thoughts. I'm not saying this is fact, but from a corporate strategy standpoint, this is how I'm thinking about the situation and how Ripple might be approaching it too. And yeah, listen, when we think about SWIFT, for the longest time, it's been looked at as a financial weapon that the US has used. But honestly, I don't really see what SWIFT is doing here as a threat. And here's why. The majority of things SWIFT has tried to do in the past have failed. I don't know if you guys know this, but SWIFT actually tried to launch their own digital currency in the past. And it completely failed because nobody wants to use a centralized currency. But let me show you the actual announcement. So at the CBOS opening plenary, SWIFT's CEO, Javier Perez Tasso, revealed plans to add a blockchain-based shared ledger to their infrastructure stack. Together with over 30 leading financial institutions, this initiative aims to make real-time, 24/7 cross-border payments a reality at scale across more than 200 countries and territories. Here's the official statement from the 29th. SWIFT introduces blockchain-based ledger. At SWIFT, our mission has always been to continually innovate and elevate the cross-border payments experience. Today, we're taking a pivotal step forward, adding a blockchain-based shared ledger to our technology infrastructure. Now check out this quote from the CEO. I'm very pleased to announce that we will add a blockchain-based ledger to our technology infrastructure to allow for trusted movement of tokenized value across digital ecosystems. And then he says something really interesting. You may think, wow, aren't those opposites? Swift and blockchain, TradFi and DeFi, can they really go together in the regulated system of the future? We believe they can. Banks are ready for it, and they're asking us to play a bigger role. Now, when we look at all the players tied to this announcement, I find this really interesting because almost every single major bank connected to this, and we're talking about a lot of banks here, let me ask you, which ones are confirmed Ripple partners? Well, we've got ACBank, ANZ, Bank of Centenar, Bank of America, BBVA, BNP Paribas, BNY, Bradesco, Citi, technically through Medico, Credit Agricole, DBS Bank, Deutsche Bank, Emirates NBD, First Abu Dhabi Bank, HSBC, Itaú Unibanco. Now, I don't think JP Morgan is actually a confirmed Ripple partner. They never really got confirmed. But Mizuho and MUFG, these two are kind of confirmed at this point. We also have Westpac, Wells Fargo, Standard Chartered, Societe Generale Forge, Saudi Awal Bank, and the Royal Bank of Canada. A lot of these partnerships come through connections like Bohr Example or even acquisitions like Mataco. But we also know that in the past, Ripple has publicly said they're partnered with many of these banks. And we've had lists of banks they're working with, and the majority of these actually do show up on those lists. Now, the ones I know for 100% fact that Ripple is working with, Standard Chartered, Societe Generale, HSBC, MUFG, Mizuho, Deutsche Bank, DBS Bank, and we also have BNY because they just announced the RLUSD custody deal. Then there's BNP Paribas, BBVA, Bank of America as well. Now look, I know Bank of America doesn't have a confirmed announcement, but we do know they've talked about Ripple multiple times over the years. We've also got Bank of Santander, ANZ. Those are the main ones I know of when it comes to Ripple partnerships. But here's what's really interesting. The fact that these are the banks tied to this SWIFT announcement. Because again, we have to ask the big question. Is this going to be a threat to Ripple? Is it a threat to XRP? And the simplest way of answering that? I really don't believe so. I really don't believe so at all. Let's think about all the names connected to this. For example, Wrath of Kahneman pointed out something crucial. Money runs on connectivity. Ripple partner Thunes plugged its pay-to-bank service into SWIFT. This means that Ripple liquidity routed through Thunes can reach any Swift-connected bank. We're talking about 11,000 banks. Almost all of these players that Ripple is working with have some sort of connection back to SWIFT. Like I mentioned earlier, SWIFT is not a clearing and settlement platform. They mainly focus on messaging. And over time, we've heard from major players that Swift has failed on almost every single major initiative they've tried to do. Here's a great take from Neatsbucks. If there will be no minting of tokens on this new private EVM Swift ledger, then I can only surmise neutrality will continue to allow any public chains to compete in the broader market. This isn't about replacing existing payment systems or issuing new money. Settlement remains in central bank money, commercial bank money, or tokenized deposits. He continues, this isn't the Internet of Value. It's one piece of it to improve some of the banking system. In many ways, this helps the XRP ledger. Until more of the Internet of Value is built out, XRP can't hit its full potential. Then he makes a really important point. Maybe SWIFT hates Ripple, maybe they don't. But institutional customers will decide what they do with their funds. The more the XRP ledger offers best-in-class liquidity and settlement between a large array of assets, the more it will be used. Simple as that. The bigger the on-chain pie, the better. And when someone asked if Swift is going to mint tokens as part of this new blockchain infrastructure, the CIO of Swift literally said no. So again, when we think about this, the majority of what we're witnessing around any of these major platforms launching blockchain or tapping into blockchain actually benefits XRP in a big way. It benefits what Ripple has already been trying to do for years. So I don't look at this as a threat. I don't look at this as something negative at all. But wait, there's more. Check out this from SanNL11. This is the CEO of Fireblocks absolutely roasting Swift's initiative. He says it has limited impact. and that SWIFT specs are outdated. You can technically browse the internet with a fax machine, but nobody is doing it. Let me show you his full thoughts on SWIFT's new blockchain ledger, announced today at CBOS. While the signal it sends to the market is meaningful, SWIFT has been announcing similar initiatives since 2018 with limited real-world impact. He points out two major strategic issues with SWIFT's play in crypto and digital assets. Number one, banks remain significantly behind the vast majority of the fintechs that adopted digital assets. Though this year has seen rapid acceleration, as a result, the vast majority of digital asset economic activity is currently happening outside the reach of their network, significantly undermining its value. It's unlikely for these fintechs to join SWIFT, but the banks will need to interact with them to bootstrap the utilization. Number two, the technical SWIFT specifications are outdated for mainstream activity with digital assets and its new market structure. You can technically browse the internet using a fax machine, but I haven't seen anyone doing it. And this goes hand in hand with what SWIFT has been trying to do. They've been trying to catch up, but they just simply can't. Because look, SWIFT might be seen as this massive giant in TradFi, right? But when it comes to the digital asset space and blockchain itself, I mean, just look at all the names Ripple has announced over the years. Big banks are flocking to trusted systems that have already built out the infrastructure. If I was a big bank, if I was a major institutional player, I'm not choosing SWIFT over Ripple when it comes to digital assets. And this isn't the idea of, oh, well, why would you pick Ripple over SWIFT? SWIFT has 11,000 banks. They're this big, massive network. They've dominated the payment space for years. Why wouldn't you pick SWIFT? Well, it's because Ripple specializes in blockchain and digital assets. Ripple has been around for well over a decade. They have absolutely destroyed every single type of competition that's come their way. Not by targeting them, not by trying to, but simply because of their experience. And also from the use, right? You've got to remember that XRP, the XRP ledger, and the entire Ripple platform has been trialed and tested for years. It's been battle tested by the biggest players, like even the Bank of England around atomic settlement of 2 digital assets. This is why, when we think about this space, everyone always says, oh, I thought it was going to be Ripple. Well, too bad. It's actually SWIFT. SWIFT's doing this. SWIFT's doing that. This is going to kill Ripple. This is going to kill XRP. I don't believe that's the case at all. Because again, Ripple has been around for so long. Their platform is battle tested. They have an all-in-one umbrella for institutional players to tap into this space. What do I go off of? How long has it been running without any issues? How fast can these institutional players tap into this space through Ripple, through this battle-tested platform? And the answer is, it's immediate. It's so quick. This is why we're seeing increased adoption around Ripple. This is why we're seeing increased adoption around XRP. It's not because they've won. It's because they've been around for years and years and years, and they've really, in my opinion, locked down the institutional side of the digital asset space. This is why I think going forward, I don't really believe any of these initiatives are a threat. Like even this one where Citi is going to integrate its blockchain platform, Citi token services with USD clearing to provide 24/7 instant cross-border payments between banks and institutional clients in the US and UK. I'm not worried about any of these announcements. In fact, I think all of these actually strengthen the use case around XRP and what Ripple has been doing for years. Because again, Ripple has specialized themselves in this space. When we think about players like Citi or SWIFT, they're just jumping in now. They're just getting prepared for this. This is why I keep saying that players like Citi, SWIFT, or any big bank, they are not a threat to us. And by the way, the majority of these systems are closed-loop systems anyway. We want to make sure this is an open ecosystem, not a walled garden. So again, I'm not worried about this at all. Now, I know some of you are probably thinking, doesn't Chainlink win because of this? A lot of people have been saying, oh, well, this is with Chainlink. And yeah, sure, it probably is with Chainlink. But that doesn't mean Chainlink beat XRP. These are two completely different use cases. Chainlink is an Oracle provider. XRP is completely different. Ripple is completely different. Yeah, I feel like whenever we see an announcement like this, everyone immediately goes, see? I told you. It's not Ripple. It's not XRP. Nah. But here's the thing. A lot of these people just aren't experienced in what Chainlink actually does, or what Ripple does, or what SWIFT does. Because again, a lot of people still think SWIFT is a settlement infrastructure. It's not. Nah. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, definitely leave a like, hit that subscribe button, and turn notifications on so you don't miss any future updates. I appreciate you all, and I'll see you in the next one.